Game between Rayo Vallecano and Barcelona has finished 0-0 at the Camp Nou. Very disappointing result, so let's just take a look at the whole game in a pretty deep overview. So let's get straight into it. The match between Rayo Vallecano and Barcelona finished 0-0, and to be very honest, it was a very disappointing game from Barcelona's perspective. As we can see in the stats that I can show right here, it's 68% to 32% for Barcelona, a pretty common theme in a lot of our matches, but I think the biggest disappointment was the fact that in the 21 shots that we actually did against them, we were not able to convert, with arguably one of the best wingers in the world in Dembele and Rafinha, and of course the best striker in the world in Lewandowski. It was disappointing in that sense. I think that personally, today's match was just a representation of what we did last season, in the sense that we were terrible in transition, we were not able to finish, we had a lot of shots, but at the same time, a lot of the shots were pretty much useless because they were from random angles, or they were pretty pointless in the sense that they were never going to actually become anything because they had no effectiveness. I think this was a common theme in today's match as well, because Barcelona essentially did nothing. I think really we had 2 or 3 chances that were potentially game changing or really could change a game in a second. But other than that, a lot of our chances were pretty pointless, and most teams with a reasonably okay defense could defend against them. I think continuing with these stats, I think if we look at this statistic, we can say that Barcelona had 8 corners to 0 for Rayo Vallecano. I think the disappointing performance that Barcelona did today was the fact that we just did cross. All we did was cross. I think, let's be pretty honest about this. This has become Barcelona's game under Xavi, and I think having the crossing element is something that I've been very happy with Xavi. I think when you have a striker like Aubameyang when we had last season, and of course Lewandowski this season, we need to cross. That is going to be something that we have to do. But I feel like Xavi is almost overdoing this crossing, because we're seeing an absurd amount of crosses, and as much as Barcelona are trying to evolve into a more of a modern team than the one that we saw maybe 10 years ago or even before that, I think we still have to have the groundworks of a Barcelona system, which is being patient. I don't think we were patient today. I think we were just waiting for a goal to come, but that's not what patience is. Patience is actually analyzing the opponent and looking at what is the best opportunity to actually break or do the actual attack that we want to do. We didn't do that. I think a lot of our wingers, especially in Dembele and Rafinha, they just want to take on players constantly and not actually look at what is the best way that we can unlock a pretty crazy defense like Rayo Vallecano. This is something that I'm constantly getting fed up with Barcelona, and hopefully Xavi does address this, that patience is needed. I think with changes like Ansu Fati and Aubameyang, a little bit more patience was there. But then in the later stretches of the game, when it was really looking like we just needed to get a goal in, the patience was once again not there. So very disappointing in that sense from Barcelona, because one of the main things that our whole entire Barcelona game is actually based on is the fact that we have to be patient, and we just did not do that today. Another interesting metric that we can look from here is the fact that we are actually 5th in La Liga at the moment. Obviously, not all the teams have played yet, and a lot of the teams actually have not even played any game yet, like Atletico de Madrid, obviously Real Madrid as well. So we are 5th. We have won none out of our last 3 games versus the Rayo Vallecano, which pretty much tells you that they are just becoming that one team that we really don't like playing against. I mean, last season we had a lot of opponents like that. I mean, we had the likes of Espanyol, which obviously we won 1 game, but in the second game they make it really difficult for us. And this is also becoming one. Levante is also another example of a team like this, but Rayo Vallecano is that team. They're making it very difficult. We lost against them last time, and this time we have, of course, drawn against them. So they are becoming a very difficult game. If we look at the next 3 games that Barcelona have to actually play, it's Sociedad, and that will be a very difficult game. I think the last time we played Sociedad, they actually outpossessed us, and we're one of the only teams in Europe in the last, 10-15 years that were actually able to outpossess us. So that just shows that they've got a lot of quality on the ball. They were very difficult to beat, and we really had to grind out a win. Hopefully this year it's going to be a little bit different, but I do not see much of a difference. After that, we see Manchester City. That will be a difficult game, but of course it's a friendly, so we don't exactly have to worry too much about that. And then we have Valladolid, which is again not going to be easy. They're going to be a difficult team to break down, and that's again going to be a very difficult game for Barcelona. In terms of the substitutions that Xavi made today, people were actually really critical of what he did. So he took off Rafinha in order to put on Ansu Fati. I thought that was a really good substitution. I think we moved Dembele back to the right-hand side where he's really effective, and Ansu Fati on the left was just electric today. He made all the right movements. He actually got a nutmeg in, put a good ball in for Lewandowski. He was just not able to control it. So Ansu Fati, if he continues playing like this, he will occupy that left position because that was very good, and it is also good for his fitness as well. I think Jordi Alba for Aubameyang was essentially just like a really late move to finally get something, but really disappointing because that kind of move just shows that you're really desperate. And for Pedri and Kessié, I'm a little bit concerned about that one because Pedri was actually holding his calf, which might not be a big thing, but it's slightly concerning. Christensen for Sergi Roberto was once again a move that they did in order to switch Araujo from being a right back to a center back. Christensen was good today, okay, but nothing stand out. And then Xavi for Frankie de Jong was probably the biggest substitution of all because when Frankie de Jong came on, he was absolutely game-changing. Just a wonderful performance from the Dutchman. Moving on to the player ratings, this is the player ratings that I've given for Barcelona. I think Ter Stegen deserves an 8, really superb today. Made 2 really big saves and one where he didn't actually make a save, but he really delayed the movements of a striker, causing them to not score. So really good performance from Ter Stegen. I think Christensen, it was either a 6 or a 7, pretty composed, put a good few balls out to Rafinha, and I think Dembele as well. Pretty good for performance from him. Eric Garcia was just average as usual as we get from him. Some people are saying that it was a great performance from him. I don't see what we actually get in this guy other than his ball distribution, which is, let's be honest, it's great that he's able to distribute, but that's not exactly what makes center back good. We need a guy that has the balance between being a good ball-playing center back and obviously have the balance to also be able to defend, which is what we're going to be able to see from Koundé, which I'm very excited about. I think with Araujo and Jordi Alba, they were just terrible today. Provided absolutely nothing attacking-wise, and defensively, they were also very bad today. Jordi Alba was caught out a few times and just was in random positions sometimes and provided nothing forward. Araujo probably had one of his worst games in a Barcelona shirt. Really bad performance from him. And then we look at our midfield, Pedri, Xavi, and Busquets. Busquets was just terrible today. Honestly, I should have given him maybe a 4 or even a 3. He gets a red card at the end, which just makes our possibility of winning against a very difficult Vallecano side even worse. With Pedri, he was just not his original style. He just was not able to control the midfield as he usually does, and just not a great performance. I'm also really worried about his calf as well because if we get an injury to Pedri, we are in a really dangerous position heading into the early parts of the season. I think with Xavi, we're just playing him in the wrong position, which right now we can't control, so that's another problem for another day. But really not a great performance from Xavi as well. And then when we look at our front three, we had Dembele, Rafinha, and Lewandowski. I think Dembele, I'm also really worried because he was touching his hamstring at the end of the game, and that could seem to be a hamstring injury, which he's had a lot of during his Barcelona career. That is looking like a really bad situation. When it comes to Rafinha, very good today in the sense that he was really working really hard, but we're not Man United. We're not going to be, giving players credit just because they work hard. I think we're in a situation where he has to perform better than he did, but at the same time, it's one of his first games in a Barcelona shirt, professionally, like in a proper level, so let's just not be too worried about that. Up front, we had Lewandowski, made a lot of good movements, and was able to really connect with Dembele and Rafinha at times, but just was not able to get enough service to actually make a big enough impact. Overall, I think it was a pretty disappointing performance from Barcelona. I think there's just a lot of work that we can still do. I think there's still a lot of things that Xavi can tweak with the system. I think one of the main things that we have to do is obviously include Frankie de Jong in our 11 next time, because he was absolutely electric the minute he came on. He was looking like a man possessed, a man on a mission. You can call it anywhere in that sense. He was just superb. We have to bring him on. He is going to be fundamental to the way that we play, and really a brilliant performance from Frankie de Jong in that sense. I think that overall for the next game, one of the things that we have to do is hopefully register Koundé so he gets to play alongside Araujo, and I would say bring Des back to the right back spot, because I know he's not exactly great, but he's much better than either Roberto or of course Araujo. Left back, I think I would stick to Jordi Alba. I still think he has something in him. I still think that we have to replace him or get another alternative, but there is still something in Jordi Alba that we can potentially see. In our midfield, I would, again, like I said, bring Frankie de Jong in. That would be crucial, but as long as Pedri's fit, he's going to be a staple. And Busquets, I mean, he's suspended, so we're going to have to bring in Pjanic, which would be an interesting look at because Pjanic is obviously a very good player in that defensive midfield position. Up front, I would start Dembele if he's fit. I would put Ansu Fati on the left, and I would put Lewandowski through the middle. I would not do too many other changes than that. Really good, really good performance from Barcelona is what I expect next time because these players would have gelled a little bit more. But today it was really disappointing, and let's just hope it's better for Barcelona. And until the next time, Visca el Barça, make sure to subscribe, and catch you in the next one.